January 11, 1979. What began as a routine late-night interview became one of the most unforgettable moments in television history. Johnny Carson sat comfortably behind his desk on The Tonight Show, smiling across at his longtime friend, John Wayne. The studio was warm with laughter. The audience was relaxed. Two legends were doing what they had done dozens of times before, sharing stories, trading jokes, enjoying the easy rhythm that only real friendship creates. For the first several minutes, nothing felt unusual. This was classic Tonight Show magic. But then, something changed. About 11 minutes into the conversation, John Wayne stopped speaking mid-sentence. He didn't reach for a punchline. He didn't smile. Instead, he turned toward Johnny with a seriousness that instantly drained the room of sound. The audience fell silent, sensing that something far deeper than entertainment was unfolding. "Johnny," Wayne said quietly, "I need to tell you something. And I need to tell America something too, because I don't know if I'll get another chance." In that moment, television stopped being television. What followed has rarely been shown in full since, not because it wasn't powerful, but because it was too real. Johnny Carson, the most composed man in broadcasting, the host who had interviewed presidents, comedians, kings, and cultural icons, broke down emotionally on live television. Not a crack in the voice, not a dignified tear, but raw, uncontrollable grief. What most viewers never knew was that this moment had been planned, just not the way anyone expected. 3 days before the broadcast, John Wayne had personally called the Tonight Show producers. He requested the appearance himself. And during that call, he delivered a warning, one they never shared with Johnny Carson. A truth that would have changed everything if Johnny had known. Johnny walked onto that stage believing it was just another interview with an old friend. He had no idea John Wayne was about to say goodbye, not just to him, but to the entire nation. And he certainly wasn't prepared for the words that would emotionally shatter him in front of nearly 40 million people. If you've ever wondered what real friendship looks like at its most painful and honest moment, stay with this story. It doesn't just stay with you, it changes you. To understand why that night destroyed Johnny Carson emotionally, you have to understand what John Wayne meant to him. Their friendship began in 1962, when Wayne first appeared on The Tonight Show. At the time, celebrity interviews were usually stiff and carefully controlled. But something different happened when Johnny and the Duke sat across from one another. They genuinely liked each other. Over the next 17 years, John Wayne appeared on the show more than 30 times, and every single appearance felt special. The tough, iconic cowboy and the sharp, quick-witted host shared a chemistry audiences couldn't get enough of. But what the cameras didn't show mattered even more. Behind the scenes, they were real friends. Johnny visited Wayne's home in Newport Beach. They went fishing together. When Johnny endured painful divorces and lonely nights, Wayne was one of the few people who called, without cameras, without headlines, just to check on him. But what Johnny didn't know, what almost no one knew, was that John Wayne had been carrying a secret since the summer of 1978. The cancer had returned. Years earlier, Wayne had beaten lung cancer and spoken publicly about it, becoming a symbol of resilience. America loved the idea that even death couldn't take down the Duke. This time was different. In June of 1978, doctors discovered that stomach cancer had spread aggressively throughout his body. The prognosis was brutal. 6 months, maybe less. John Wayne made a decision that stunned those closest to him. He refused to disappear. He refused to fade quietly. Instead, he chose to live openly, work publicly, and face the truth head-on. But before anything else, he needed to say goodbye to the people who mattered most. His family knew. A few close friends knew. And now, Johnny Carson needed to know too. But Wayne didn't want to do it privately. He didn't want a whispered phone call or a closed-door conversation. He wanted to say it where their friendship had lived, on the Tonight Show stage. What he didn't anticipate was how unprepared Johnny would be. That Thursday night, the studio was electric. When John Wayne walked out from behind the curtain, the audience exploded into applause. A standing ovation. Cheers reserved only for American legends. At 71 years old, Wayne still commanded the room. Dressed in his signature Western jacket, he moved with the confidence that had defined half a century of cinema. Johnny stood, shaking his hand with a grin that looked more like admiration than professionalism. For 11 minutes, everything felt normal. Wayne joked about True Grit, the role that finally won him an Oscar. He teased directors who had been afraid to criticize him. He laughed about aging, about how even his loved it. But Johnny sensed something was off. Wayne paused often. His eyes drifted across the crowd as if memorizing faces. The jokes landed, but behind them was a heaviness Johnny had never seen before. Then the shift came. After a light-hearted story, the humor vanished. The legend faded, and sitting there was no longer the Duke, but a tired man carrying a truth too heavy to hold alone. "Johnny," Wayne said softly, "before we go any further, I need to tell you something." The room froze. Johnny leaned forward. "Of course, Duke." Wayne took a breath, looked at the camera, then back at his friend. "I'm dying, Johnny." 3 words. And they crushed him. Johnny Carson's face drained of color. His hands trembled. The man who always had the right words had none. And then, something unprecedented happened. Johnny Carson broke. For the first time in the show's history, he sobbed openly on live television. The audience didn't know how to react. Producers froze. Cameras kept rolling. And then John Wayne stood up. Slowly, carefully, the dying man walked across the stage and wrapped his arm around his friend. "It's okay, Pilgrim," he whispered. "I've made my peace. Now I need you to make yours." For 2 minutes, no one spoke. This wasn't entertainment. This was humanity. What followed wasn't an interview. It was a conversation between 2 men facing the hardest truth of life. They talked about family, regret, fear, love. Wayne admitted he was scared of leaving his family behind. Johnny admitted he didn't know how to keep doing the show knowing Wayne wouldn't be watching. At one point, an audience member stood up and asked through tears, "Your movies taught me how to be brave. How do I do that now?" Wayne answered simply, "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward while being afraid. You tell the people you love that you love them, and you keep going." The rest of the show was canceled. America needed this moment. And America responded. Phone lines exploded. Thousands called not to complain, but to say thank you. Cancer organizations were flooded with calls. Doctors reported surges in checkups. John Wayne's honesty didn't just move people. It saved lives. Over the next 5 months, Johnny Carson kept his promise. He visited Wayne constantly, brought food, sat with him, watched old films together. When Wayne was hospitalized, Johnny canceled shows and slept in waiting rooms. "Johnny never treated me like I was dying," Wayne once said. "He treated me like I was living." On June 11, 1979, John Wayne passed away. At the private funeral, Johnny honored one last request. "Don't cry," Wayne had told him. "Make them laugh." Johnny told a story. The room laughed through tears. Told a story. The room laughed through tears. And for 13 years after, Johnny honored Wayne every single anniversary on The Tonight Show. Never once missing. That January night is now studied in journalism schools, grief counseling, and media history. Because it proved something timeless. Vulnerability is not weakness. Honesty is courage. And love doesn't end with goodbye. Johnny Carson later said it was the most important moment of his career. "Because that wasn't television," he said. "That was 2 friends saying goodbye, and somehow America was invited." And that's the lesson that still matters today. Never wait. Never hide what you feel. Never miss the chance to tell someone they matter. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is let the world see your heart. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. And if this story moved you, share it with someone who needs it today.